My name is Eileen and I am the youth librarian here at the Portland District Library. I want to welcome everybody to our new session of Write On, Portland District Library's Creative Writing Club for ages 8 to 12. So we had our first session of this club back in the fall, and that was focused around creative writing, specifically short stories. And this session that kicks off this month in April is going to be focused around also creative writing, but we're going to be focusing on poetry. And April is actually National Poetry Month, if you didn't know that. So we just thought it would be fitting to launch our next session of the Creative Writing Club during this month. So we're not only going to be writing our own poetry, but I'm going to be reading poetry as well. So books here at the library that you can check out to learn more about poetry and just read more poetry. We're also going to be using the supplies in our Take and Make bags to do collaging of poetry, and then also doing some blackout poetry, which is where we take old book pages and black markers. So you should have already received your Take and Make bag here at the library when you registered. And I'm going to go over what's in that bag, how we use the items every week, and just a few recommendations for you in just a few minutes. So hang tight on that. And so I just am so thankful to have you all here with me and going on this writing adventure. And every week I'm going to have a new video out for you, and you'll get an email from me with the link to the video. If you don't get an email, check your spam folder. Sometimes my emails go into spam, and if for some reason you didn't get an email, make sure you call the library just to check up on me and see what's up, because you should be getting an email every week on Tuesday with the link and just a summary of what we're going to be working on. So I want to jump right into what is in the Take and Make bag, and then we'll talk about what is poetry, a couple of different forms of writing, and then we're going to jump into a warm-up activity. Just to get our brains kind of up and energized and on the right track to do some writing today. And then I'm going to read some examples of poetry, and then we'll get into our main activity for the week, where I'll kind of assign you an activity to do at home that you can then share with me via email if you'd like to share that with me. And when you send me your poetry or any of your projects and activities that we work on throughout the 6 weeks, when you send those to me in an email, just make sure to let me know if you want to keep that between you and I. I'm more than happy to just read your poetry and share my thoughts with you directly. But I would also love it if, as we work on our poetry, if you'd be open to me reading some of your poems and sharing those with other club members on video. So just make sure to let me know if you want to keep it between us, or if I can share those poems on our videos. It's always exciting to see and share those different works and see what other people are coming up with based on the same video and the same content that you're watching each week. So let's go ahead and talk about our Take and Make bags and how we use those items, and then we'll just jump right into talking all about poetry. So here we go. Are you guys ready? Let's get started. So before we actually get really into the content for this week, I just wanted to show you what is in your Take and Make bag that you received here at the library. So we've got this lovely plastic bag where you can put everything back into it each week after you're done using it, because we do use all of this stuff each week. And if you choose to sign up for the next session of the club that we have, we're going to be using the same things again. So you're going to want to keep it nice and safe at home. So in your bag, you should have received this folder with the Write On it. And when you open that up, you've got this white cardstock, which is just thicker paper. And then you've got some book pages and then some magazine pages. And so this is stuff that we're going to use in future weeks, not this week. So we're going to keep all that nice and safe. And then you've also got these two different journals. And this one, we call it the composition notebook. And this one is where we're going to be doing our warm-up activities and all of our rough drafts of things. So this is where we can just write, scratch things out, all of our just practice writing. And then we have this wonderful journal, and this was purchased with a donation that we recently received. So a patron donated some funds, and we were able to buy one of these for each of our club members. And this is just a gift for you, and you can either choose to save it for the club specifically and write final versions of things here, or you can just choose to do your own personal journaling at home. So this is just a gift for you, and it'll pop up throughout the videos each week, but I'm not requiring that you use it specifically for the club, but it's just for you to go on your own writing adventures if you choose. And then you've got a bunch of different writing utensils. So we've got pencils, we've got a pen, and then you have 2 different Sharpie or black markers. One's a little bit thicker and one's a little bit thinner. Then you should also have a set of colored pencils, a glue stick, a fat eraser, and then a pencil sharpener. And then the last thing that was in your bag was a letter from me. And this was just a welcome letter letting you know what the club is all about, what we're going to be focusing on, how I communicate to you. So again, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and respond to the email that you'll get every Tuesday. And so this is going to be all the stuff we're going to be using throughout the club each and every week and in next sessions if you decide to continue to be a member of the club in future sessions. And if for some reason there's something missing from your bag that I've talked about, please go ahead and let me know. I want to make sure everybody got everything that I talked about today. So if there is something missing, please contact us here at the library and we can get you your missing and or replacement items. Before we get talking about what is poetry, I just wanted to briefly go over the 6 forms of writing that there are, and then we're going to talk about which form of writing we are actually going to be focusing on. And this is a little bit dry because it's just a lot of me talking and a lot of information, but once we get to the actual poetry activities, I hope that you get a little bit more invested and have some more fun this week. So let's go ahead and just talk about what are different forms of writing and what they mean. So we've got the first form of writing, which is personal writing, which comes in the form of journals and diaries, free writing, brainstorming, listing, and they define it as just the 2 basic things of remembering and sharing ideas. And then we have subject writing, and that's descriptions, summary reports, interviews, case studies, and that is about searching and reporting things. And then we have creative writing, and that's what we're going to be doing here in this club. And that's where we write poems and plays, stories and jokes, character sketches and songs, and that's all about inventing and imitating real life. And then the 4th form of writing is reflective writing, and that is editorials, opposing ideas, essays, position papers. So that's more of like things that you write when you get into high school and college, and if you have a job when you get older. And that's all about reflecting and speculating. And speculating just means taking a guess or putting out a hypothesis if you're into science, and then doing an experiment to see what is what. And then the 5th form of writing is academic writing. So that's where we write essays, cause and effect reports, summarizing things. So that's all about informing and analyzing, so taking a deeper dive into things. And then we have business writing as the last form. And that's where we do, we write resumes and cover letters to help us get jobs, memos. Some places of employment, you have to write a lot of instructions when you're training staff, and other staff will read those when they're doing tasks. And again, that's just all about doing questioning and answering. So those are the 6 forms of writing that exist. And again, we are going to be talking specifically about creative writing and poetry, to be even more specific. But we are going to be doing a little bit of a warm-up activity here in just a minute, and that's going to be a form of personal writing. So we're going to be doing free writing here in just a few minutes. So what is poetry though? Can you guys go ahead and just think about, what do you think of poetry right now in this moment? Some of you could already be in love with poetry, and you love to read poetry, you love to write poetry, you love to share your poems, or maybe you're somebody that has never ever written a poem. They've only heard about what poetry is, but maybe you've never really read a poem or any kind of a book where there's a bunch of poems in them. So we could have, club members with a whole different level of experience when it comes to poetry. And that's okay, because we love to have people with different experiences participating in our programs and sharing. And this way we can kind of learn from one another too. And throughout the 6 weeks, I am going to be trying to share things about myself and really letting you guys in on some of my poetry. So I'm going to be doing all these activities with you each and every week. And I will do as much sharing of my poems platforms and my experiences as possible to give you help in really digging deep into your creative mind and exploring all sorts of different ideas and things that you think of that we can put on paper in the form of poetry. So the way that we actually define poetry, it's a literary work in which special intensity is given to the expression of feelings and ideas by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. And that's a very wordy description, but basically it just means that poetry is where you carefully choose what words you want to use to express different ideas or thoughts, and you put them in a very specific order. You arrange them in different ways so that there's all sorts of meaning. Also, when you're reading poetry, it's about how it sounds when you read it out loud and which words you're putting special emphasis on. And there's also going to be things like rhyming at the end of a sentence. So there's going to be all sorts of different things that we're going to explore throughout the weeks. But again, this week we are just going to be starting really simple. We're just going to write our own poetry and see what we can come up with just to test our skills here. And again, I'm going to be reading some examples in just a few minutes to give you some ideas. So hopefully you're just excited to get started in writing some of your own poetry. And again, creative writing is all about just expressing yourself and your ideas and just really digging deep. I truly believe that a lot of people have issues in, or just have more problems in expressing themselves and really having confidence in their ideas. That's the thing. Everybody should feel confident in any idea that they have, especially when it comes to creative writing, because it's all about what you want and what you want to put on paper. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. It's all about what's up here and what ideas you want to share in the form of poetry. So I hope that over the next 6 weeks that we can kind of build up that confidence and that you just feel more and more confident in sharing your ideas and all those creative thoughts that you are having down on paper and writing your own poetry. So we are going to get started with a warm-up activity, and that is just something to kind of get our brains moving and thinking and just really kind of kicking things into gear here. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to do for our warm-up activity next. So for our warm-up activity, we are going to do something that's called free writing. And this is a form of personal writing. Remember those 6 forms of writing that we talked about earlier? This is the personal writing. And that just means that we are remembering and we're sharing things about ourselves. And how free writing works is we're just going to take our composition notebooks and one of your writing utensils from your bag. Doesn't matter which one. Some people like pens, some people like pencils. Maybe you want to do it in all sorts of colorful colors, so you can use your colored pencils. But whatever writing utensil you prefer, go ahead and get that out. And we are going to just be writing in our composition notebook for 2 straight minutes about anything that's on our mind. Free writing is all about just writing whatever is on your mind in that moment. You don't have to judge what your thoughts are. You're just writing it down. No thinking, just writing whatever you are having going on up here in your mind. It could be, depending on what time of day you're watching these videos. It could be maybe before you go to school in the morning, and maybe you want to write about how you're feeling that day and what you're excited about, or maybe you're just excited to get the day over with so that you can come home and help with dinner or do something fun with your family. Maybe you're doing the Write On Club, after school on weekdays, and you want to talk about what you just did all day at school, or maybe you're going to be doing this on the weekend and you and your family had something fun planned to do all together, and that's what you want to share. So again, free writing is it's basically like journaling, but there's no structure to it. You're just writing whatever is going on in your mind at that time. And this is again, a warm-up activity. So we're not sharing this with anybody. Nobody's going to go back and reread read it. We're not judging ourselves. We're just writing, writing, writing. Don't worry about spelling errors or grammatical errors. Just write, write, write in that journal for 2 whole minutes. And what's gonna happen is I am actually gonna play some music for you here after I get done talking, and that music is gonna play for 2 whole minutes, and it's gonna just be like a timer for you. So once that 2 minutes is up, you'll see me again, and we can move on to our actual poetry activity for this week. So go ahead and try to write for 2 whole minutes, and if you can't write for 2 whole minutes this time, that's okay. We're gonna do this again next week for 2 minutes again, and we'll just see if you can accomplish it for that 2 whole minutes next week. So just do your best to write for 2 minutes, and you'll see me again here in just a few minutes. So good luck with your free writing, and again, just a warm-up activity to get those gears going and to start thinking about writing. Phew, how did that feel? 2 minutes. Did it feel like a really long time, or did it go by like that? Could be either or, depending on who you are and if you enjoyed that. Again, some of us, we have an easier time expressing ourselves and writing down those thoughts. And again, free writing is just all about not judging our own thoughts and just writing, writing, writing. So I hope you feel pretty good after that. Again, 2 minutes, it can either feel like a really long time or just, 2 seconds and it's over. So I hope you enjoyed that little warm-up activity. And the next thing that we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna read some poetry for you. And this is, again, just to get our brains thinking about different kinds of poetry. And so I just wanted to share a few books from our collection here today. And these are all books that you can check out here at the library. When you're done with our first video here. We have a pretty nice poetry collection in our juvenile nonfiction collection, which is downstairs. And if you ever need help finding these books, just ask the staff at our youth desk, and they are more than happy to help you locate our poetry section. So the first thing I want to share with you is this book called The Proper Way to Meet a Hedgehog and Other How-To Poems. So this book is actually a compilation of a bunch of different poems, and there's also a bunch of fun illustrations. So again, poetry can take all kinds of different forms. You can, write individual poetry, you can write a whole book of poetry, you could add pictures, you could not have pictures, you could add color, you could just do black and white. So again, there's all sorts of different options, and it just depends on what you as the writer want to do. You are the author in this case, and it's up to you on what you want to do and what you want to write about. So our book here, The Proper Way to Meet a Hedgehog and Other How-To Poems. So I'm going to go ahead and just open this up, and I'm just going to go ahead and read one example here of a poem. So let's go ahead. I'm going to read this one called How to Bird Watch. And so this is what it looks like here on the page. So again, it's just a few little lines here, and it says, "Be very quiet and amazingly patient until finally a shy dove thinks your green shirt is part of a shady tree." And that's that whole poem. So this poem, for instance, is only 5 lines of words. So that's a pretty short poem, but it's still a poem. So don't judge a poem just based on how long or short it is, because you, again, have that control as the author. You can write about whatever you want and make it however long you want. So that's just one example of a poem. And now I'm going to go ahead and read another poem. And this one is actually from a book that I used to read as a kid when I was your age. And so maybe you've already heard of this one before, but it's called Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And this one is a special celebrating 40 years. So this book has already been out for more than 40 years. So very, very fun and exciting. And this one is, again, one where the author draws pictures, but the pictures don't typically have a whole lot of color with this author. They're just black and white. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip open a page here and show you. This is what one example of his poems look like. So again, it just has, maybe 10 or 15 lines of text and then that wonderful drawing here. So if you ever feel like you want to draw a picture with your poem, you should feel more than free to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick one out of here. I'm just going to kind of flip through here. So this one is called It's Dark in Here. I am writing these poems from inside a lion, and it's rather dark in here. So please excuse the handwriting, which may not be too clear. But this afternoon, by the lion's cage, I'm afraid I got too near. And I'm writing these lines from inside a lion, and it's rather dark in here. And this one is fun because it actually does have, again, a little picture of a lion that the author has drawn for us. So he's just giving us another little sneak peek into what's going on inside his mind there when he's writing this poem. And as you were listening to me read that poem, did you hear something at the end of some of those lines that they have in common? They rhymed, that's correct. So you heard me say, here, clear, near, here. So again, that's one thing that a lot of poems include. They have those rhymes at the end of the lines. And remember when we talked about where we put words in specific orders and arrange words and pick them very carefully? That is a perfect example where the author specifically wanted certain things to rhyme throughout the poem, so they made sure to choose those words and put them in a certain order so that when you read it, it flowed, and then you could also hear those rhymes at the end of those lines. So another just great example for us. And again, Shel Silverstein is a very popular author, so he's got a bunch of different books in our collection, and Where the Sidewalk Ends is just one example of that. So I'm so happy that I got to share those two examples of actual poetry or poems that were written and in books here at the library. And that was just, again, to give you an example of a couple of poems. And I'm going to read a few more next week. And I hope that you, if you have an interest in reading more poetry, will come to the library and check out some of our books from our juvenile nonfiction collection. All right. Again, I know that was a lot of little information and a lot of me talking. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and talk about our actual activity that we're going to do this week. And so let's go just jump right into that next. So what we are going to be doing next is we are going to be writing our own poems. And I want to challenge you just to write one whole poem this week. before our next video comes out next week on Tuesday. Now, if you are somebody that wants to write a bunch of poems, that's perfectly fine, and I so encourage you to do that, but do not feel the pressure to write an author 10 different poems this week, because we just want to build on our skills each week. So this week, I just want you to focus on writing one poem. And because I want you to kind of see what you're comfortable writing about, I'm not going to put any kind of a theme or anything on this poem. I want you to think about what you want to write about. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples before we say goodbye this week, just so that you have something to work on if you don't have any of your own ideas. But again, this is not about me telling you exactly what to do. It's about us working together creatively and just talking and sharing our different ideas, me reading examples to get your mind thinking about different things that you can do, and then you writing whatever you want to write about. So just remember, anything I say this week is just about examples and ideas that you could take, but if you have a really good idea that you want to write about, you do that. Okay? All right. So let's see. So again, I just want to encourage you to write any poem that you want. You could write about your day at school. You could write about maybe you have siblings and they were annoying. You could write about that. Maybe you have a really good relationship with your siblings and you had, fun playing a game together today, and that's what you want to write about. Maybe you want to write about the weather is getting warmer and we're finally coming out of winter, so all of the trees are starting to get their leaves and things are becoming all sorts of green and really pretty outside. So you could write about it becoming spring. You could write about something that you're excited about in the future. Maybe you're just so ready for summer and summer break. Maybe that's what you want to write about. Maybe it was your birthday or somebody else's birthday in your family and you all celebrated together, and that's what you want to write about. So again, you could pick anything and everything. Well, not everything. Your poem, you really want to kind of narrow down your focus on exactly what you're writing about in your poem. But you could write about anything. So again, I just want to challenge you to pick a topic, anything. Maybe you want to write about your pet. Maybe you have pets at home and you just love them so much and you want to write a poem about your pet. So try to think about what you might want to write about. And I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds here to kind of think. And again, I'm just going to kind of give you some more examples on how to come up with what you might want to write about as we're talking here before the end of the video. So again, I just wanted to give you a second to see if you could come up with something. And if you haven't thought about what you actually want to write about, that's fine. Maybe as I can kind of continue talking about our activity this week, you'll be inspired and figure out exactly what you want to write about. So once you have an idea of what you actually want to write your poem about, you can start kind of thinking about exactly what you want to express in your poem. And you really want to focus on, using words, descriptive words. So things that describe adjectives, so things that describe other things. You can talk about the colors of things. You could talk about you can describe things in terms of what they look like. You could talk about sounds, things that you hear. You can also just talk about what you might be feeling. You could write about different emotions. Maybe you're happy, maybe you're sad about something. Maybe you're excited. Maybe you've cried about something. So it's really good to use really descriptive terms. So, colors, describing what something looks like, what it feels like. Poetry is really about putting your emotions down on paper and just expressing everything and anything going on in your brain on a specific topic. So you can just think about that and think about some of the words that you might try to use within your poem. So I'm just gonna, again, give you those basic, really simple guidelines to write a poem this week. And if you are willing to, I would love for you to share those poems with me via email, or you could take a picture of what you've handwritten and send that to me so you don't necessarily have to type it. But what I would recommend is that you just take that composition notebook and flip open to the next blank page, because we did our free writing activity in here, so there's going to be a little bit of writing. But go ahead and just flip open to the next blank page and just start to write and see what happens. A lot of times with poetry, you're gonna, cross things off that you've already written that you don't like because you had a better idea. So just a lot, just write and edit, and also make changes and just see what you can come up with. And again, this first week, I'm just really curious to see what you can come up with by yourself. And then next week, we'll get a little bit more into some more specific poetry and start using some more of the items in our bags to create beautiful, wonderful, pretty poetry. And I recommend that you use that composition notebook to write all your drafts of your poems. And then when you think you have a final draft, if you want, you can use that wonderful Amanda Gorman journal that we have to write out your final copies of poems. You can make them, you can do all your edits in your composition notebook and do all your different drafts and have the ugly versions where you're still working on them and trying to figure out exactly what you want to share. And then you can write those final versions in your journals if you want. And if you just want to, take this journal and do your own personal journaling, that's fine too. This was just an extra little gift for all of our Write On Club members. But if you want to, write those poems in here, I think that would be a great use of your journal this week. So again, we're just not putting pressure on ourselves. We're just going to see what we can come up with for our first poems. And if you have any questions or you find yourself struggling and you just need a little bit of extra help from me, please do not hesitate to call me here at the library or send me an email. I'm always willing to help you guys one-on-one if you need a little bit more help. We have a bunch of different kids of different ages participating in the club. So depending on where you're at, again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, you might love poetry already, so you know kind of exactly what you're doing, or you might not be that familiar with poetry and you just want to really learn more. So again, don't put too much pressure on yourself to make anything perfect. Creative writing is, again, it's a journey, it's an adventure. It's about expressing yourself and just seeing what you can come up with. This club is not here for you to judge yourself and be hard on yourself. It's just about expressing yourself and learning and exploring and going on this writing adventure all together. So I hope that you have some fun this week in writing your own poem. And again, go ahead and contact me if you have any questions or need any help. All right, Write On Club members, I hope that you enjoyed week 1 of our videos, and I hope you enjoyed the poems that I shared with you from the books from our collection. I hope you are having some fun exploring just all the items in your take and make bags. I know we gave you a lot of fun stuff, so just make sure to keep all that stuff organized in that plastic bag. Because we are going to start using some more of that stuff next week. And then as we work through our projects each week, we're going to be continuing to use all of the items in our bag. So if you, again, have any questions, please feel free to email me, call me here at the library. And I am just so excited to be going on this writing adventure with you. And I will be sharing my own poem that I come up with next week in our video. And I hope that you will send me some of your poems that I can read here, or just read and respond to you directly, not necessarily sharing them with the whole group, but I just look forward to hearing back from you, and I hope that you have some fun. And just remember that do not put pressure on yourself to be a perfectionist here. I know I'm saying that because I tend to be a perfectionist and really hard on myself, and I've learned over the years that I love my own ideas and there's nothing wrong with that. So make sure you have some confidence in yourself as you're writing this week, because your ideas are your own and nobody can take that away from you. So have some confidence, have some fun, and I look forward to exploring more and more poetry and different themes throughout the next 6 weeks. So bye for now, you guys, and I will see you all next week on Tuesday again. Bye!